Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm on the content marketing team here at Chartmetric. And I'm just going to be giving you a bit of a rundown of, what Chartmetric is and some new exciting updates on the platform. So just going to do a brief little presentation first on kind of like what Chartmetric is and, how we can really help. So if you're not familiar, Chartmetric is an all-in-one platform for artists, music industry professionals, and we provide comprehensive streaming, social, and audience data to create successful careers in music. Um, so basically, what we really provide at the end of the day is market data. And so, I'm sure everyone here is pretty familiar with market data, but in today's world, market data is the missing link for how we understand, contextualize, and gain insights specifically for how people discover, listen to, and share music. So it just really empowers us to be able to make those informed decisions and develop effective strategies. And the music industry has always used market data, but it's growing and changing so much, especially, in the past few years. And yesterday's market data can only really tell us about yesterday. So where the data used to be stuff like fan club memberships, tour schedules, press cuttings, sales charts, those were great, but they were limited, local, and oftentimes late. But now today, especially in the past few years, there's 1,000 times more data available to us. So, we really went from 4 to 5 different data points for consumers, CDs, tickets, merch sales, to now over 10,000 different data points to kind of analyze. So that can be anything from listens, views, likes, creates, follows, you name it. So yeah, there's, as the marketplace is becoming more borderless, music is becoming more and more global. Our listeners are in more and more places. So it's more important than ever to really be tracking and analyzing where listeners of music are. And what's so great about Chartmetric is we really aim to provide actionable knowledge and insight into these indicators. So, who's Chartmetric for? It's used by over 4,000 different organizations across the music industry. And this can be anyone from the artists themselves, songwriters, creatives, labels. We have A&Rs, publishers, the live sector uses us, radio, you name it. So we have something kind of for everyone. And that's why I'm really excited to kind of show you how specifically coordinators and, this area of the music industry can really benefit from Chartmetric data. And what is Chartmetric for specifically? There's a million different things that we can really do on the platform, but we kind of boil it down into 3 different main parts. We have audience acquisition and retention marketing. So what we do is we provide detailed insight into audience reach and engagement for over 10 million different artists across digital streaming platforms and social networks. So we track any artist that's on Spotify and Apple Music. We recently crossed over the 10 million mark, so it's super exciting for us. But you'll be able to see any insights from Spotify monthly listener growth, to SoundCloud followers, to Instagram followers, across all of those different networks. And next, really valuable thing about Chartmetric is seeing those global audience insights. So being able to develop a deeper understanding of where that audience is and their different behaviors. And, the last thing that we really try to promote Chartmetric for is pitching and promoting smarter. So we say, find where you need to be to get where you want to be. And that can be from uncovering the most impactful brands, tastemakers, and influencers across streaming platforms and social media. So yeah, enough of that. I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of dive into the platform here. Let me change screens. Alrighty, so yeah, I'm going to be tailoring this demo kind of like if you've never seen Chartmetric before, but also trying to hit on some of our brand new features that I think are really great and useful specifically to all of your guys' use cases. So when you first hop into Chartmetric here, it's kind of a dashboard view. So any artists, you can follow them on Chartmetric and they'll display right here in your dashboard so that it's easy to see. The first thing you see when you log in is kind of an aggregated view of all of these different metrics. And you can toggle these on and off based on what you want to see. If I want to see airplay data, I can turn that on, I can turn that off. You can change the date range to be, kind of like a weekly view, a monthly view. You can see that percent change growth. You can see that raw numbers. You can also sort these by different things if I want to see by the top monthly listeners here. And again, these are just all of the artists I follow. So this can be personalized to you. If you have a certain roster of artists, you can add those there accustomed to the way that you need it. And I'll just quickly mention that anything that you have here and across a lot of the areas of Chartmetric are exportable by CSV. So you can bring that data and kind of manipulate it the way that you need. So as I go through here, I kind of wanted to tailor this demo towards one of the biggest sync moments that I feel like happened in the past year. So Saltburn, I figure it's a pretty exciting one to talk about. So here we have, this is an artist profile page. So across, all 10 million artists that we have on Chartmetric, each artist has their own profile page. So here's Sophie Ellis Baxter. She sings the Murder on the Dance Floor song. And yeah, it's kind of, starts with an overview. So you have a career snapshot of, her growth and her momentum across all different platforms. Some insights, we can see like she's gotten a large increase in Instagram followers over the past few days. Some milestones. There's just so much data here to look at. It can definitely be a little overwhelming at first. So, just kind of seeing what's on the surface level at first, I think is a really good way to start. You can see, primary market, secondary market. And yeah, just kind of all of those aggregated stats. I'm going to hop into the stats and trends section because this is kind of my favorite area of the artist page. I think this is really where a lot of the insights are. So what stats and trends does is it takes all of those different platforms that I've been mentioning and it provides them here at a view where you can analyze them individually. So here I have it toggled to all time. Most of our data goes back to around 2018, 2017, because that's when we started tracking. And so here you can really just see that spike that happened around December of 2023. And that is exactly, due to the sync placement. And what's super cool here is you can kind of toggle off and on to see what might have been an indicator for those certain moments. So here we have that placement there. So it's super exciting. And yeah, you can see this across all of these different platforms. Wikipedia views spiked during that time as well, kind of no surprise there. But yeah, and the list goes on and on here, and the potential is kind of truly endless in terms of what you want to look at. So yeah, the next thing I'm going to hop into is the audience tab. So here you can see, the breakdown of audience demographics for the certain artists. And so what this is, this provides an overall view, but it's basically an aggregate of all of the Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube audience demographics. So we see that her audience strays primarily female, with the age range being 25 to 34, so kind of that millennial age range. We have audience ethnicity as well and audience languages. And you can scroll down. You can also see their top location. Here we can toggle by monthly listeners. Also, we have, again, YouTube and Instagram for top cities. So I think another also really valuable thing here, we have airplay data. So you can see what radio stations and what areas of the globe are really picking up certain artists, certain tracks. You can see the growth in those tracks over time and see what songs specifically are getting played the most. We also have brand data. So if I want to see kind of what brands an artist has a specific affinity for, these are based on Instagram metrics. So we see the overlap in followers for certain pages alongside with the artist. So I guess weirdly, her followers have an affinity for Lego. But yeah, it's super cool and can be super valuable, if you're looking for an artist to be able to have a certain partnership for a kind of like a brand collaboration or something like that. this can be super useful here. And, it definitely varies from artist to artist. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of the artist page. We also have a section here for TV and sync, but it really just kind of shows what the past sync history is. So that can be valuable as well. We have playlist data and tons of other different features, but I'm just gonna hop over now into the tracks page. It's actually pretty similar to what you saw on the artist profile page. Again, we see stats and trends here. You can analyze those at the different levels of the platforms. We have TikTok data, so you can be able to see what influencers are maybe picking up a certain song that's causing it to have a viral moment. We have YouTube data, playlist data. Again, we have also airplay data. It's a ton of data. So, but yeah, I think these are some of the most valuable features on the tracks and artist pages. So I'm going to hop into now a really cool feature that we launched a few months ago called Shortlists. So this is our artist page here. What this page does is it takes all of the 10 million artists that are across all of these social or streaming platforms, and it ranks them. And by default, it ranks them by Chartmetric score, which is kind of our own proprietary measurement for performance across all of these different social and streaming platforms. But you can also rank them by whatever metric it may be. You can rank them by monthly listeners, whichever metric you desire here. But what's cool is you can tailor this list so that instead of being all, 10.2 million artists here, I can create a short list. So here, I put in all of the artists that were synced on the Saltburn movie, and I can see here kind of how they've been performing over the past however many days. Right now, we have it set to 28 days, but these filters are what truly makes this tool so valuable. So you can filter by attributes, platform metrics, audience metrics, tons of different things. But if you're doing, a study maybe on like which syncs in a certain movie perform the best, here would be a really cool way to be able to see that all in one place. And it's super easy. Again, you can just export that right here. And this can be, applicable to anything as well. Like I have a short list here for the Friday lineup of Coachella this year. So if we wanted to see which artists grew the most in a certain date range after the festival, we could do that here. So yeah, it's super cool. And we just added a new feature that if you have a certain playlist of artists or songs, you can easily import that in the shortlist by here, add a shortlist, and you just import from CSV. So that's super easy there. And the same thing goes for tracks. You can also create shortlists for tracks here. We have, Saltburn tracks. So I would be able to see what sort of had the biggest growth. And again, you can toggle on and off based on the date range. You can look at percent growth or raw numbers and changes. And again, we also have all of those different filters here as well. And so the next tool that I think is one of my favorites is our Comparison Pro tool. So this allows you to compare different artists, different tracks, and different albums against each other. So here I can look at the performance of Taylor Swift, but then I can add another artist here and I can compare her against Billie Eilish. And I can toggle this view. Let's say we want to see growth over the past year. And we can have by any of these different metrics here. So we have, for example, Spotify monthly listeners. So we can see these different moments in time when perhaps a certain artist is having a moment, and compared to another artist, or comparing different release strategies and stuff like that. And you can compare, up to over 100 different artists, but it gets a little messy. So I'm not sure I recommend doing 100 at one time. But yeah, super cool. And And then, so you, again, like I said, you can also do these for tracks and albums. And then the other part of this tool that's really cool is the artist introspection. So let's see if I want to compare the different stats for, let's do Drake. And we can compare his, so this gets kind of hard sometimes because the metrics have to be somewhat in the same range to really be able to see something. But so here I have monthly listeners set, but I can also compare it against, let's see, his followers. So you can see kind of there, we didn't start tracking his monthly listeners till 2018, but how his listeners compared to his growth in followers. So super cool to be able to kind of see, you can compare those different, platforms against each other in a certain way, to see what's performed. If you're releasing a certain type of content, is the content performing best on Instagram? Is it performing best on TikTok? This would be a really great way to be able to see that. Let's see. We also have we have a brands page. So again, like I was mentioning earlier about the brand affinity for artists, this is a way to see it kind of at a brand level. So if I was looking to do a partnership with Nike and see, what artists might make the most sense to bring in for something like this campaign, you're able to see what artists have a certain affinity most with the followers that also follow this brand. Like I was saying earlier, this kind of depends from artist to artist as well as brand to brand. So Nike's brand affinity for certain artists is going to look a lot different from Doc Martens, for example. You can kind of see the difference there. A lot of international artists showing up here. So yeah, that's one way to use the brand affinity page. We also have cities data and countries data. So you can zoom in on certain areas of the world to be able to see, what artists are trending in what cities. Here we have the top trending artists in New York City. This is by growth and Chartmetric score. You can see that over certain periods of time. What artists are trending by certain platforms, what genres are the biggest in certain cities, what tracks are trending. And we have a bit of live events information of the certain events over time. It's a huge dip in 2020. And yeah, we can also see this, like I mentioned, at the country level as well. Let's see. We also have a reports page. So you can create reports for different artists. You can compare them against different artists. So if you want to see, if you're pitching a certain artist for something, you can compare them against another. And here, see those different, sorry, I don't know why this is taking a second to load. But you would be able to, compare those different fan bases and audience metrics against each other, literally like right next to each other. And last thing that I wanted to go over was our playlist page. This page is super cool. If you're looking to see, what artists are getting on what playlists, how certain playlists perform over time. Let's check out Viva Latino here. Oh, sorry, that just took me to the playlist. So we can see certain metrics about the playlist as well. The followers over time, the amount of tracks over time, what day of the week certain tracks are usually added, how long tracks last in the playlist, and record label distribution. We also have a really cool feature called playlist journeys. This is one that I think gets overlooked quite a lot because it's a little bit complicated to understand at first, but basically the idea is before songs end up in a certain playlist, what playlists are they landing in first before that? So almost like the journey to these big playlists. So if I'm a Latin artist and I want to end up in Viva Latino, what playlist should I maybe be pitching to first to get into? So you can see this here. 22 days before this song was in Viva Latino, it was in this playlist here. So yeah, I think those are some of that's just kind of a broad overview now. I think I'm close to the 20-minute mark. So if anyone has any specific questions, I'd definitely be happy to kind of help answer.
Yeah, I have a few that came in. I think one of the ones that I had, and I think another person put it in as well, is tracing content across different platforms. So let's say an artist is posting on TikTok versus Instagram. Is there a way to measure like successes via what platforms they do better on, or what individual pieces of content are doing, or something along those lines?
Yeah. So I think like my first way of looking at that would probably be to kind of see what the stats and trends are. So, making a certain note of when that content was posted. So here we would be able to toggle by Instagram posts, Twitter posts, TikTok posts, and be able to see at a certain level how that content performed. And if there was anything that had a real spike. So here, there's nothing really specific happening for this artist, but we would be able to see if there was a moment happening, like it would register here, and then you would be able to see that spike and be able to see kind of what's happening there. Um,
Awesome.
Unfortunately, we don't really have a way to see how a specific piece of content is doing across different platforms, but you would be able to see here in the fan base comparison, you can see kind of an aggregate view of at least the followers and the fan base metrics
Sweet.
to also see how that might be affecting how those efforts might be really affecting the at least the fan base metrics over time.
Awesome. And then someone, I think you shared it earlier, but independent artists are also tracked in here as well. I'm imagining, right?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Independent artists, they're also being tracked in this and
Yes.
data.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
we track every single artist. We all, 10 million artists on Spotify and Apple Music. And, sometimes for maybe you just released a song on Spotify, we might not necessarily be tracking you yet, but all you have to do is get in contact with us and you just put in a request and our client team will deal with that and we'll start tracking you within like a day or two. And also if you're an indie artist, sometimes not with like a lot of metrics accumulated yet, your links might not always be correct. We might pull something that's not quite right. And we've really recently worked on streamlining that process to be able to edit certain links. And also, really quickly, if I'm not sure if you know, but we can also claim artists. So if you are an artist or you're part of an artist management team, you're able to kind of claim an artist in the way that you are for Instagram if you get a blue check or something like that. And it gives you free reign and free editability over all of these different things on your page.
Awesome. Another question was, are you doing like retroactive data searching for different like things that maybe you said, for instance, Drake, you started in 2018. Is there stuff that you're going further back with in terms of collecting information?
Yeah, so we were kind of founded around like the 2016 mark. So when we started, it was a lot of big focus on, Spotify at the time. So our Spotify data starts around 2017, 2018. And then the rest of the platforms kind of follow suit in terms of, date that we started tracking. I believe a lot of our socials go back to like 2019, 2020. Same with like TikTok. YouTube, I believe, goes back to 2017, 2018. It just kind of depends. And I'll also note that For some songs, for example, we aren't able, because it's just such a high volume of data, we don't track all stream counts for all artists for all songs. So for the top, I think it's 5,000 artists we do. But once it gets, farther down the line, we only track, I believe it's the top 10 or top 15 stream counts for a song, just because it's so much data.
Gotcha. And
Mhm.
then I think the community is really interested in, obviously, in this angle for film and TV, music or gaming, etc. And I know you had a few points of data regarding that, but maybe if there's a way you can elaborate on just maybe what kind of information people who are interested in, let's say like songs that were in synchronization or in different projects, if there's any data being collected on that we can grasp.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think like if you were working on a certain project, that's where stuff like that I mentioned, the short lists, can really come in handy, because it just gives you a way to be able to track that performance, over time, and to be able to see, like what's really working. And I also think that what it could also like be really helpful is if you are looking for a certain artist for or a certain song that like you want it to be the perfect fit for a certain moment, really analyzing those audience demographics and those moments that are maybe happening on socials, to be able to see like, is this going to resonate with possibly the audience of whatever this sync is for. I think is kind of a huge use case there. Um,
Absolutely. I think also ads is a great one. A lot of ads look to brands, especially look for artists that they can present ideas, or artists cross promoting. So I think there's a lot of value there in that way. I guess the one of the last questions before we have to move on is, do you see this service more for like corporation, in terms of subscription, or is there an independent price range for, like, let's say, for instance, independent music supervisors, which is a lot of our membership? Maybe you can elaborate on that
yeah,
price range,
definitely.
etc.
Yeah, definitely. I'll actually bring up the pricing page really quick just so you can like really see it. Um, so we do, we started off as a B2B company. So our main plan was kind of, working with these corporations and, the labels and everything like that. But in the past, I would say 2 years, we've really pushed being able to cater towards that independent audience, because we don't want to limit ourselves to only working with other businesses. We really want to be able to bring this data to anyone that can be able to benefit from it, making these, data-driven decisions for their careers. So we recently released the artist plan. This gives you data on one artist. So basically, if I was an independent artist, I could pay, it's $10 monthly, it's $5 monthly if you pay annually. So this is a bit confusing. But I would be able to see all of the data on myself. And then we also have, a step up from that is a manager plan. So you get data on 10 specific artists. And the premium, which is what I was showcasing in my demo, you get access to all of the different artists. So you could search up any single artist that's on Spotify and be able to see their data. Whereas if you were using the artist or manager plan, you wouldn't be able to do that unless they were either your one or part of your 10. And then the enterprise is kind of the big like business to business type plan that we have. But yeah, we've been really trying to get our artist plan out there, because we want to work with these smaller companies and these smaller artists, and bring them the data. So we do have that available.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been very insightful. I think there's been a couple people who have asked about getting in touch with you or getting in touch with Chartmetric, maybe for their own businesses. So if you could potentially put your information in chat, that would be, I think, very helpful.
Yeah, I definitely will. And in case anyone misses this, it's just Sarah at Chartmetric. So definitely feel free to email me. And thank you so much, guys, for allowing me to speak with you and give you this demo. So it was really fun.